Right, time now for a look at what's making headlines in the French papers. And Diptyque Laurent is here in the studio with me. Good morning, Diptyque. And we're starting with that match between Borussia Dortmund and Monaco last night.
That's right, Rochelle. That match, of course, was played under very extreme emotion after a triple explosion that targeted Dortmund's team bus earlier in the week, injured a player. Now, nonetheless, Monaco was exemplary. That's what the French sports paper L'Équipe says on its front page. The paper says they showed that passion is stronger than fear. Monaco was seductive on the field and respective in the player lodges. L'Équipe says of their 3-2 win over Borussia Dortmund in Germany. Now, what's interesting is L'Équipe also reports that some of the Dortmund players are actually angry that the match went on or was rescheduled so soon after that attack. L'Équipe says some of the players felt they weren't in the right headspace to play that match and wanted more time to recover. I quote one Dortmund player who said, we're not animals."
Wow. Well, the investigation continues into that team bus attack with 2 suspects in police custody.
Well, German police are investigating possible ties with radical Islamists, and they have 2 main suspects, one who's in police custody, but they do have 2 main suspects on their radar. This is according to Le Parisien newspaper. The paper reports that the bombs were designed to create a, quote, carnage, but the claims of responsibility left in a letter at the site of the attack has police perplexed, in particular the way that the claim of responsibility for the attack allegedly came through. For police, it's not reflective of the usual jihadist style, so there are some doubts in the police investigation right now.
OK, well, the investigation continues. But Diptyque, let's move on to politics now. And only 10 days to go until the French cast their ballots in the presidential election.
That's right. And we've been seeing all the candidates furiously campaigning all across the country. And 2 of the frontrunners, Emmanuel Macron, the independent candidate, and François Fillon, the conservative candidate, have penned columns in the business paper Les Echos this morning, Rochelle. Now, it's clear for the paper that we're talking about 2 very different candidates with opposing visions for reform in France. Macron's vision, I quote, is measured and methodical, while Fillon's vision is much more dramatic, a revolution even, according to Les Echos. Now, Fillon says in his column that France needs radical reforms to dig itself out of this, quote, rut, and accuses his rival Macron of wanting to, quote, please everyone. Macron says reform should be methodical and transparent, not a, quote, bloodbath, and he insists on going right to the heart of problems in his reforms and treating the core issue. For the business paper, though, in its editorial, they say the 2 men have much more in common than they'd like to believe. Both of them are reformists, pro-European, pro-business, with desires to shrink the public sector, but also push for transitions to clean energy and the digital world.
Well, meanwhile, Emmanuel Macron was in the southwestern French city of Pau for a rally.
Yes, and actually Pau is a city, it's sort of a stronghold city for Macron's ally and fellow centrist, François Bayrou. Macron held a meeting for his supporters there. L'Obs says Bayrou appeared as a tutor for Macron, but raises questions whether he was a tutor or a future minister. If Macron does get elected, the paper alleges that Bayrou may be eyeing a position in a future Macron government. Macron, of course, has been tight-lipped on rewarding his allies for their loyalty with government posts if he's elected. Now, one person who could potentially bring his very valuable support to Macron is the French President François Hollande. This is according to Le Figaro and L'Opinion, the right-leaning papers. L'Opinion says there's actually a document reuniting all of Hollande's loyal allies, which will be made public in the coming days. And this letter is allegedly, I quote, a discreet call, an appel du pied, to back Macron in the first round of elections.
Well, the French President, François Hollande, is, of course, getting ready to leave the Élysée Palace in about a month's time. And as he does that, he has given an interview to Le Point magazine.
Well, it'll be one of his last interviews, no doubt, as French president. François Hollande really looks back on his presidency, in particular, the fact that he was time and time again France's most unpopular president. Now, in this interview with Le Point magazine, he warns French voters against simplifying and falsifying of information, which Le Point presents as a warning, as Hollande's warning against voting for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far-left leader. Hollande says France needs a, quote, honest president with self-control whose first duty is to France and the French people.
And just quickly, we're going to end with some science news, Deepti. You're looking at the remarkable qualities of ants.
This is a great story from Le Figaro, which looks at observations from German researchers. It turns out that ants are very efficient in sanitary evacuation, essentially taking their fellow ants injured in battle to safety and treating their injuries.
Okay, Deepti,
so
thank you. There you go, Deepti. Thanks so much for that. Deepti Laurent there with the French press review. Well,